We believe you deserve authentic value. We believe that the content that you have access to needs to somehow serve you in your life, your business, your profession. But more importantly, it's got to serve you in kind of a hybrid, a holistic approach to all of that. I had a successful exit, and a form of that income is apparently you can't tie expenses to, which I did not know. And I went through all this strategy with all the attorneys and all the CPAs and all the things. And I'm like, come to find out, it's like, these are real expenses tied to this real number. And I can't use them. I feel like I'm getting stolen from.
Yeah.
Right. And, I remember talking to my girlfriend, and, she's successful. She's a mortgage broker and stuff like that. And not a mortgage broker. I'm sorry. She owns a brokerage and she's a real estate.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
And, remember her telling me, she's like, you're going to be just fine. Mm-hmm. I'm like, but it's X number of dollars and it's a lot. And I plan to use that money to invest in this thing over here. And AI server, like all these different things. And she's like, you're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Will you have the money? I'm like, yes. Mm-hmm. Is it remotely close to the entirety of your net worth? No. You're going to be okay.
Yeah.
She goes, part of what I think God is trying to show you right now is he wants you to actually learn what abundance looks like rather than living in scarcity. Because I've been that poor kid my entire life. Yeah. Right. People think that once you exit a company and build something from scratch, and that inner child Stephen would just evaporate.
Yeah, goes away.
Oh, no. He got louder. Right. So every time there's a financial challenge, God has already proven to me he's going to deliver as long as I'm faithful to him and keep trying to serve and keep trying to do right. He's good. I'm not out here doing intentional dumb brain stuff. Yeah. Right. But what I'm experiencing this is, it's like, I think you just said it, and actually you just said it to me, from him to me, through him, which is, you can trust me.
Yeah.
I got you, bro.
How big is that though?
It's massive. I feel like some of those lessons you only learn by doing it wrong. My team came to me, I don't know, it was probably a month ago. They were like, hey, Steven, you realize that when you do leadership material, right, on social, that it does really, really well. I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to do leadership material. I'm like, why? I said, because I did it wrong for so freaking long. Like I didn't do great at first. Like I led from fear and insecurity, right? And it took me time to develop the skill sets and the mindset, spiritual set, to really say, all right, this is what an anchored, authentic, integrous leader looks like.
Yeah.
You know what they told me? They said, that's precisely why you should be doing it.
Yes. Which is spot on.
But I had this epiphany, probably about 3 years ago. So 3 years ago, people were coming to me all the time, say, how did you go from homelessness to building blah, 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 blah. Right. So much so that it was like, it started off, I would tell the story, and then I would later try to find commonalities. And then I discovered statistically that businesses fail for lack of, they say the 5 reasons are lack of leadership, lack of sales, lack of market penetration, poor product fit. And I got to thinking, none of those were my story. My story was arrogance, ignorance, impatience, fear, and insecurity.
Man.
Right. So I call them the 5 constraints.
Love your honesty.
It's like, and it was like constricting the neck, which led me to have a complete awareness overhaul of, you can't scale dysfunction. Okay. You just can't scale it. If you're dysfunctional, your team's not going to be, your team's going to be dysfunctional, and then your clients are going to see you as dysfunctional, then your process and systems. So basically the entrepreneur is the embodiment of who they are. So if they want their business to change, they change themselves, which had me thinking, just while we've been talking, on some of the most challenging moments, where we were, even including myself, in some cases, scaling dysfunction real time, or attempting to, it was laughter that pulled us out of the hole.
Yes.
So I'd like to maybe talk a little bit about team resonance.
And by the way, you just reminded me of the other laugh language, because you just illustrated it's poke. And so this is poking fun at yourself, gently teasing, roasting other people. But what you just did is such a great example of being real. Again, authenticity. You didn't make your story about being homeless about being a victim or what happened. I'm sure there are elements where you got some rough cards dealt to you.
They were all self-induced.
They were all self-induced. Yeah. And where we see this a lot. My my grandfather told me, he said, I was a drunk for 40 years. And then I got sober for the next 45 years. And as a young man, he took me to 12-step meetings. And I felt like, is this a comedy club? Because they're all laughing and joking about their own flops and their disease and roasting other people. And I noticed that this spirit of community and camaraderie and humor was part of their recovery.
Yeah. No, I love that because I discovered that if I was going to, like I told you, the constraint was insecurity, like one of the constraints, right? And I embodied all 5 of them independently, sometimes a handful, sometimes all of them at the same time.
You were like the poster child for constraints.
I used to be really insecure about the fact that the extent of my education was a GED. But meanwhile, you're generating 45, this is like a decade plus ago, you're at 45 million top line revenue annually. And I've got people that had 4, 8, 6-year degrees based on their skill set, right? CPA, became a CFO, right? COO, right?
Yeah.
And then, so I would go in and I would step in and Grant, I obviously founded the company. So it was all grit and hustle and tenacity and all those things. But, I would get into these conversations where I'm like, they would have great ideas and I would just suppress them and shut them down. And I did that as a byproduct, trying to make myself feel like I should be sitting at the table with them.
Right.
And I share that because one of the things that I discovered is once I became more authentic with them and willing to poke a little fun at myself, I'll give you an example. You probably noticed when we were exchanging a handful of emails that my emails are not really well worded, right? Which by definition would surprise folks, except for my little disclaimer at the bottom of the email that says, and I stole this from a good friend of mine, by the way. I wish I'd invented it, but I didn't. His name was Doug Stewart. He actually did this mentorship thing called Your Top 4.5 Mentors, which is a fantastic talk. Doug Stewart, TEDx, check it out.
Yeah.
But it says compliments, was it creative spelling and grammar compliments of dyslexia?
Oh, I love it.
Funny story.
Yeah.
The woman that sold me this house, she saw that email. She used to work with people with dyslexia and learning disabilities. So I go to close on the house. They had a different offer on the house that was more money than I had offered with a whole different deal set. She could have taken a large proceeds and ran, so to speak. And she says, "No, I chose you."
Oh, I love that.
And she said one of the elements was how I communicated.
Yeah.
Like I was always honorable and authentic and stuff like that. And she goes, plus I used to work with kids just like you. And to see you reach this level of quote unquote success just warms my heart. This house deserves you. Plus I know you'll do good things with it.
Right. I'm sure you've heard this saying. I don't know who originated it, but I just love it. And the idea is intimacy means into me see. So
I thought it was Icy. It was Austin Powers. The guy who played Austin Powers. The Guru movie, actually. That's right. Into me, I see.
Yeah. But when we're open like that, like I'll tell you a story that I've rarely shared, but this struck me. I was emceeing an event and a lot of high capacity donors at a 5-star resort. I'm about to introduce a big time keynote speaker and a kind of famous group of musicians. I go up there, but when I was hearing them talk about the founder of this nonprofit, his story about addiction, his story about wrestling with God, this has never happened to me before, but I burst into tears before I even got up there. I'm the MC, so I'm supposed to, be the orchestrator. I get up there and I can't speak. I'm about to introduce the band, and they had to put their arms around me and kind of help me talk through it. And
were you just emotional at the time, or?
Yeah, it just did something inside me, thinking about my grandfather, thinking about my own struggles with addiction over the years. And I thought, I just wrecked this opening, but it had the opposite effect. People came up to me and they said, "We're so glad you're here. Now you know what we're all about." And so I think sometimes we believe that we're primarily thinkers when really we're linkers.
Yeah.
We link our hearts. We link our stories, our experiences, our failures, our physical challenges,
I absolutely love that, by the way. Love that. It's a fortune cookie moment. I love it.
It is.
Thinkers or linkers. I like that. I was just thinking, it just dawned on me, and I love when what I call life truths just pop in your head. And the life truth that just popped in my head is very simply, if you can't clarify the lifestyle that you ultimately want, how are you ever going to build for that lifestyle?
Totally.
And I think that's the difference between something that I've been working on now for about the better part of a year, is helping people go from striving into flow. Like literally stop striving for what you want and start doing the things that open up the gateways, if you will, to allow those things to flow to you. And I can tell you from personal experience, so I'll be honest with the audience here. When I was quote unquote producing wealth, I had no idea what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was essentially a person who was creating wealth who couldn't steward it. Therefore, it would slip through my fingers.
Yeah.
And then I would have to go out and recreate it over and over and over again. And thank God he gave me the ability to do some of that. But at the same time, eventually, when I was, I think it's a maturity thing. You start getting more mature and like realizing, wait a minute, there's got to be a better way. All these other folks like Warren, gosh, there's so many that I want to rattle off the top of my head, but almost all of them do one principle that I see that most of America does not do. And it's the principle of compounding.
Yes.
And it's not just compounding money, it's compounding time, talent, and resources. So I'm so glad you started there, because I see so much of what I refer to as the 5 constraints. My audience has heard it before, so I'll just take out number 2, the second one, which is ignorance. Like we're just ignorant. We don't know what we need to know. We're not even pursuing the fact that we need to know it.
Yeah. You bring up a good point, because so when I look at money, I kind of look at a quadrant, and I'm kind of, ever since I read Cash Flow Quadrant, I've just kind of looked at these 4 quadrants for everything. Right. And so I think when you look at the quadrant of like making money, I think most people aren't even on the quadrant, because most people are not good at making money.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have your select few that are good at making money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like phase 1. But those that are good at making money rarely are good at managing money.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see a lot of people that can make money, but they're not able to steward it well, like what you talked about. Well, then all of a sudden, you've got an even smaller percentage that can manage money. They can manage the money they've made. Sometimes the people managing money aren't the ones that made it, but it's even better if you made it and you learn how to manage.
Yeah.
But I think the quadrant that is most impactful is the next quadrant, the third one, which is multiplying money. There are some people that have the gifting, and I believe this is my gifting, where I can really multiply results, and I can see through bad deals, and I can gravitate more to good deals, good sponsors. The diligence that we do, we spend over $300,000 diligencing the deals that we do in our community. And so there's all kinds of frameworks, there's background checks, there's all these hoops that people have to jump through to even get access to our community. And so very rarely are people good at multiplying money, but that one is like just a huge difference maker. And then from there, that 4th quadrant is making money matter. Mm-hmm. And I think for anyone that has figured out how to make money, that's a responsibility and obligation that we have to actually do good with it. At a certain point, consumerism, like you're not getting more. Like at a certain point, joy doesn't increase. Like, you want more money means less problems, typically, certainly less financial problems. And the goal is to upgrade the quality of problems you have. But at a certain point, more money, like you buying more stuff for you and your family, isn't serving. It's actually hindering. And so I think as you can find ways to have impact there, that's really what creates a lot of fulfillment, and it's really fun. Like that's when I think money becomes way more of a game than a mode to survive.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so true. It also had me just thinking, when it comes down to what I've witnessed, yes, you can get to a place where you get there is a tipping point, but if I'm being just honest with you, I've had just as much trouble learning how to be diligent and use the diligence, processes and frameworks, if you will, to create a methodology to make sure I don't take advantage of bad deals. Because I've had my fair share of those, fair share of good ones.
As every investor will at some point in time. I mean, that is part of the learning.
Well, the flip side of that is also one of the things that I love about wealth, or creating wealth in general, is the ability to create overflow. And overflow, by definition, to me, is putting that money to work for a cause just as much as, for, compounding, if you will.
Yeah.
And I'd like to hear your thoughts on how you maybe diligent, or how you maybe look at diligence for looking at deals and deal flow, versus how do you decide where you want to put that money to work in a cause, a nonprofit like Tim Tebow or something like that.
Yeah.
How do you know what to do with it?
Part of that's through prayer, right? Part of that is like having a clear vision of the impact that we want to have. Part of that is just getting clear on what it costs us to live and getting there. So I think like step one is what does it take? What does it cost me in my life just to survive and get by? Nothing fancy, just to get by. All right. That survival income. What is that per month? How do we get passive income to cover that? Step two, how do we cover our lifestyle income? So it'll cost more per month to live the life that you want with eating out and vacations and toys and all the stuff that you want. And then how do we get there in passive income? And then, number three is kind of like ideal lifestyle. So you're at a point where anything above and beyond your lifestyle, there's two choices. You can either grow your lifestyle and subscribe to a little bit more consumerism,
Yeah.
or just upgrading life. But the other aspect for me, as I see it, is okay. Once I hit that, you called it overage or overflow, and I've just same thing. I call it surplus income. Everything above what it costs me to live. Well, now I have all these dollars that can go to wealth creation and impact. Okay. And so early in my career, I worked hard to save 15, 20, 25% of what I made so I could invest it so that I could get ahead. Well, once you're in surplus income, 100% of those dollars can go towards impact and wealth creation.
Yeah.
And then it's figuring out from there what percentage makes sense to you and to your family and how involved do you want them to get.